Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest Nasqaa series from the North and South Q&A. Your host tonight, State, pretending to be a boxing announcer. And tonight we are interviewing the Colossus, the man, the winner of nothing this season, Heath. Heath,
Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Yes, mate. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Very good indeed. Excited for the NASCAR. We haven't done one of these in a little while, and yeah, it's something different and something fresh for people to listen to from ourselves. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to hearing some of your responses to these questions that I've prepared for you. Are you ready for what's going to get thrown at you?
Yeah, no, I'm up for it. I'm well up for it.
Be prepared for a lot of stuff that you may disagree with, listeners. However, this isn't an opinion Q&A, all right? His opinion is acceptable. You don't have to agree with it, but it's acceptable because it's his opinion, all right?
And you
But
can
please still,
laugh. You're allowed to
yeah,
laugh if you want. We can't
definitely
hear
laugh.
you laughing when you listen
Still,
to this podcast.
and you will get the opportunity to send abuse to him because you'll have his FPL Twitter at the end of this episode as well. So feel free to, berate him, whatever you please. It'll all work fine. And make sure you copy me in when you do berate him because I'll probably agree with you and just join in on it as well. So yeah, good work. That's the spirit. That's what we look for in these things, abuse. So anyway, let's get cracking, Heath. Are you ready?
I am, mate. I am.
Stay. Are you ready? I am. I'm ready as well. I'm ready. Let's get it on. So let's start with some simple ones. So can you tell us your name, please?
It is Heath.
And what is your FPL team name, Heath?
It's the Southern All Stars.
Can you not be a bit more original than that?
I just came up with it last minute and then stuck it in there and kept it there.
So,
I might change it next season.
well, yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think our listeners would like to see something a little bit more fresh, original, and hip, as the kids would say. Who knows? But yeah, for a man who claims he does a lot of research and preparation, it wasn't very well prepared in terms of your team name this year.
It
So,
wasn't. It was rushed.
out of the millions of players, Heath will definitely be in the bottom 500,000 for team names this season. Thank you. So, are you North or South, Heath?
The motherfucking South.
Who do you support then, Heath, and why do you support them?
So I'm a massive Watford fan. My father grew up in a place called Bushey, which is in Watford. He actually was born in Watford General Hospital, which is right next to the ground. He basically passed on that genetic defect that we both have of having yellow, red, and black going through our veins. I think we need to go to a doctor about that because that's not healthy. And yeah, it's
only way.
it's stuck for a while. I think a lot of people have abused me in the past because when I was younger, I did have a brief flirt with Manchester United in the Cantona days. But the moment that they won the league for a second or third time, I realised actually success isn't for me. I need some failure in my life. So I chose Watford and I've never looked back.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, I like that. That's a good answer. Success isn't everything, listeners. It's not. For all those glory fans, you know who you are, who've just moved to Man City over the last 10 years. Yeah, there you go. It's not the way forward. So, and do you play football still, Heath?
I do. I do.
And what position are you?
Well, at the moment, I'm only playing 5 aside, 6 aside, 7 aside, depending who turns up and when they turn up. So
Ooh.
I am currently in between the midfield, centre forward, leftish kind of period. I like to cut in on my right foot. No, I'm really a centre back who converted himself into a centre forward. Actually, I'll start again. I was a centre forward who was converted into a centre back because I was tall, who then tried to convert himself back into centre forward, but was too unfit, so was lumped back at centre back. So I'm centre something. I can't play right or left anywhere, and if you put me in midfield, I'm not going to go far. So I'm either a striker or a defender. It depends on if you've seen my finishing or not. If you haven't, I'm a centre forward. If you have, I'm a centre back.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Is it 4-4-2 or 2-3-5 formation when you're a striker? What are you looking at?
Mate, I only play well in a two up front. I have to have someone there with me. I can't do the legwork on my. I have played up front on my own, and it's not a pretty sight. But I've played up front with a couple of people in the past, and it's worked with some and not with others. But the one thing they would all tell you is, due to my lack of confidence, I'm a very generous player. Therefore, I pass the ball to them because I don't want to shoot myself. So I get a lot of assists and not many goals.
There you have it. He would be a very good assist person for you on FPL. With the lack of goals, he probably won't be too expensive either. So,
But it doesn't matter because it's only 1 point less. So, if you get assist every week, so
yeah, could get some bonus points for his all-round gameplay. Yeah, really good thinking. And what's your earliest football memory?
So it's a bit of a strange one, but I think I can remember the 1990 World Cup, but I'm not going to go with that because I can't. I'm thinking that I remember the Cameroon game. I can't remember the Germany game, but I think I can remember the Cameroon game vaguely. But because I can't remember it properly, I'm going to go with San Marino. Remember the 7-1 where Stuart Pearce messed up and they scored, but we won 7-1. I remember that really clearly because I was really confused that we'd won 7-1 and no one was happy. I couldn't understand it. I vaguely remember the Dutch game, and I remember the Dennis Bergkamp hate that my dad and I had for him at the time until he moved to England and started playing for Arsenal, and I absolutely loved him as a football player. But when we lost the Dutch and we were really unlucky, I remember that. And then I remember like us.
When Koeman should have been sent off.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then he scored at the other end. But I remember the San Marino game really, really clearly and thinking, wow, like Ian Wright, Les Ferdinand, I think John Barnes, all sorts of people scored that night. And I remember thinking, like, England is so good. But what I didn't realize was how poor San Marino were. And also, what I never understood until probably about, I don't know, until I was in my late teens was I didn't understand why people were disappointed that we lost 7-1. And then I realized that we needed to win by 7 clear goals or more. But it didn't really matter anyway, because I think the Dutch beat Poland or something like that. So it didn't matter. But it was more the embarrassment that San Marino actually scored against us in record time. So, yeah, that's my earliest memory. And it was, I remember it being quite a depressing kind of evening game. And it just felt like it was a real low moment. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you're not going to get much lower than that, to be fair, unless you go on and spot someone like Watford, say. So, yeah, good point. And what's your favorite football memory?
This is a tough one, and I had quite a few. I just want to label a couple. So the Wolves Watford FA Cup semi-final, 2-0 down, last minute penalty from Deeney. Delafeu's incredible first goal. Then he scored to make it 3-2, going to a FA Cup final. We won't talk about that. So that has to be up there. But if I'll be honest with you, the first memory I can really have that I really have of like, I just can't believe what I'm seeing was playoff final against Bolton Wanderers. I think it was 1999. It was unbelievable. I had my dad, his friend, and my uncle all there at the old Wembley, all crammed in there. I think I was around 14 or 15 at the time. And I just couldn't believe my eyes when we scored the second. We scored the second in like the 88th minute or something around that time to kind of like finish off Bolton. And Bolton had probably been arguably the team with the best chances. Our keeper was unbelievable that day. But to know that we were in the Premier League, where I've been used to looking at all my dad's old programs and seeing, first division, mid-table to low, fighting relegation and then getting relegated and then coming back up again, to be in a playoff final to beat Bolton, who were probably the better team on paper as well. They had Ida Gudjonsson and Per Franson and a few other really good players. And to go up into the Premier League, it was way too soon for us. And I think history kind of told us that when we finished rock bottom with the lowest amount of points the season later. But it's so worth it to have gone to Wembley in the Twin Towers. Is brilliant. Yeah. So that has to be my favourite football memory of all time.
Nothing beats a playoff win at Wembley. And if it's to get you to the promised land as well, that's.
And I will say one thing, Steve. if you haven't, and if the listeners here haven't, check out Nick Wright's overhead kick against Bolton in that playoff final. It's pretty special, though. It did look like it came off his shin, but which kind of goes against it a little bit. But the attempt and the fact that it went in the top corner, and that it was at Wembley, and it was a playoff final, and it went in the top corner, adds to everything. So check that out if you're on YouTube or any other platforms also available.
Yeah, we're not here to advertise one single platform. Just reiterating.
I don't know their rivals, but it'll be somewhere.
They're not close enough to them. I guarantee that.
No.
So yeah. So then onto FPL. How long have you been playing FPL?
So my first season was the 2006-07 season. So it's quite a long time ago.
After we'd finished university and we were sober enough to think about it at weekends. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And that's a really good point, because actually that makes sense why I think I did flirt around with the idea of having a team at uni, but I think I didn't have an official email address or something. So that's the first one I had with the email address I have now.
We missed a trick there at uni, didn't we?
It wasn't as established though, and it wasn't as easy to use. The rules have been improved, and to be honest, like, you actually look at how many people, I think it was around just over, maybe just around 2 million, maybe less in the first season I played it. So, and now it's around 8 million. So it's got a lot popular like over the years, but yeah, it's a long time ago.
Sound okay, excellent. So then on to the next one. Highest FPL rank.
Now, this is my claim to fame.
Ooh.
I finished 37th in the whole world one year.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the earlier seasons, so there wasn't as many people playing it.
Still an achievement.
It really was. And my friends and I, we went traveling. I think it was around like Australia, New Zealand. We went to a hostel.
Oh, you didn't try China birds with this line, did you?
No, it's a bit weirder than that, actually. I wish that could have been the case. But my friends were kind of almost like, I don't know, being my PR guy or something. Because when we got chatting to people about Premier League and fantasy football, as soon as they showed interest, they'd be like, "This guy finished 37th last year." And one guy was like saying to me, "I think I need your autograph. You're semi-famous." But it was one of those seasons that I'm sure we've all been there, where you're leading your mini league and you're so far ahead, 100, 200 points ahead, that you don't even really, everything you do, you could just take a risk because you've got nothing to lose. I wasn't looking at the overall rankings or something like that. I wasn't even thinking about that. And then gradually everything fell into place. And by the end, I was like, wow, I'm finishing. I think I finished the highest I had been all season. So, like I say, I don't think I really ever realized how the magnitude of it until years later. I realized how bloody difficult it is as a game.
Yeah, no, definitely. Good. And then the one we're all really interested in, we're not bothered in these top 50 in the world sort of bullshit, right? We're interested in your lowest FPL rank. Come on, tell us.
Okay, right.
Where's the lowest of the low?
This is tough, right? My lowest is 37th in the world. I'm just consistent. I finish 37th every year. No, I in the season where Leicester won the league in that year, I was one of the people who really didn't jump on the Vardy, Mahrez, like one of the Leicester defenders. I didn't jump on any of them until it was too late, and I paid for it. I finished 718k. I'm not even going to give you the specific number, but it was a bad season for me. I don't often. I know there's people out there who get to a point in the season they give up because they've things haven't fallen into place. I'm not that person. I even in that season, I would have still been doing everything I could have done to get as high as possible. So that just wasn't my year, and nothing fell into place for me that year. So that was a stinker.
Fair play. I still don't think that many people would see that as a stinker. Still inside the top 1 million. I mean, yeah, there were probably left one as many players there because it keeps growing, but still inside the top million, not the worst place in the world to be. So I'm guessing our listeners who have been never been inside the top million are pretty much hating you right now with a passion. So yeah, which is good. Good listeners, we don't mind that at all. Again, his Twitter thing will be released later.
They can't hate me, State, and the reason why is because of question 4. I support Watford. You can't hate a Watford fan. Just feel sorry for us and just leave us alone.
If you're a Luton fan, you might.
No, they don't. They
Palace.
don't. No, they got bigger fish to fry. Brighton, Charlton.
Anyone who doesn't like Hornets,
Yeah,
Brentford, they prefer bees. Bees are better than Hornets. There you go.
not really. Hornets are bigger. I think they would dominate bees all day long.
Well,
not this season.
Bees die after one sting as well, whereas Hornets don't. So Hornets have got a longer lifespan. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, true. Bad point by me. Very bad. So, what's your favorite FPL moment?
Okay, so my favorite FPL moment, I'm going to give you 2 moments. One, I'm sure everyone's got this moment, which is the Sergio Aguero last minute Man City winning the league. I mean, that's probably one of the best footballing moments, let alone FPL moments. But it was great because we all kind of played football that day. Me and my mates, we had drinks after the game. It was kind of an end of season do as well. And we watched the Man City QPR game at the same time. One of the guys had Aguero as captain, the other one didn't. And Aguero scored, and everyone went crazy. But my mate went extra crazy, was running around in a circle. And my poor mate, who was finishing second now, realizing it in the last minute, was just sitting there. I couldn't stop it. I felt so sorry for him. And my mate overdid it a little bit with his celebrations. I think he realizes that now. And the funny thing is that the other moment, which is also my favorite moment, was him winning it the other time, where we did this thing where we did the match of the day challenge on the last game of the season. And we knew that there were 2 guys going for the title, and one of them had made Van Persie captain. The other one, I think maybe Ronaldo at the time or someone like that, or I'm not too sure exactly. But basically, whoever the other guy captained, it didn't work out, and he didn't get many points. Van Persie scored a hat-trick or maybe 4 goals against Blackburn or something in a dead rubber kind of thing. And the guy who won the Aguero moment won that one as well, and also overdid it that time. But I love it. I love them both moments, not because he won it, but because of the emotion and how much it meant to him. When I've won FPL in the past, I've won it way in advance, and I'm quite far ahead of people, and it's not that fun, to be honest, for anyone. I mean, I've got a trophy, so proper trophy. So maybe me lifting that might be one of my best moments. But no, those 2 moments without that because they stand out. I haven't got any other moments that really stand out apart from those 2, and it's maybe because we just talk about them more that they've just stuck in my head. But they were good fun.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And what's your least favorite moment?
They're very recent, to be honest. One was a couple of weeks back where Watford lost 3-0 at home to a relegation rival, Norwich, and my captain, Dennis, got sent off. Honestly, that is one of the worst things you can hear. I think the other one is probably just not having Salah all season this year, because literally, I don't think anyone's performed as well as Salah has this year. Like, I know it's halfway through the year, but so far he's been incredibly consistent, and it's been a killer coming on these podcasts, being second best most of the season. But things might change. I'm thinking Salah's going to be pretty depressed going to the second half of the season, because he's a losing finalist. It's going to be hard. It's going to hit him hard. Mane's going to go on a run. Salah's going to do nothing, and no one's going to have Mane, so everyone's going to stick with Salah. You're going to stick with Salah, and I'm going to win the head-to-head this year. So it's all going to turn around. See how this is like an interview. I've taken my least favorite moment and I've put a positive spin on it. You see what I did there, mate?
Yeah. I'm not hiring you. we do it like that at the end. The N and S QAA, the Nasqaa. We don't recruit like that. That's not how we recruit. We want people who are down in the doldrums, We don't want positivity. We don't want turning negatives into positive. We just want negatives, please. That's all we
Okay,
want.
okay. Noted
Or,
for the other questions.
yeah, or turn a positive into a negative. We like that a lot. That's really good. Take the best thing you've ever done and make it into an absolute negative. We will love you for that, and you'll get a job for life. That's it. So yeah, and who's your favorite current FPL player then?
So I've got two. Again, I'm being greedy. I'm not going to go with Salah because Salah is too good, right? So it's too easy. When you've got a set and forget captain, it's too easy. My two favorite players at the moment in FPL are Rafinha, because I think he's a season keeper and I think he plays for a team that are struggling due to injuries and whatever. But he's struggling, but he's kind of always around the points, seems to score against anyone. He doesn't score every week, but that makes him quite interesting because people get rid of him thinking he's not going to do anything against Man City or Liverpool, and he does. And he's both footed. I really like that about football players. Attack him. I really hope he gets a move in the summer, personally. And the other one is Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm not a big fan of him personally, but as a football player, to have a fullback at 7 something million and know he has to be essential in your team, and for him to get the goals and assists that he's got, he is just another level. That's what FPL is all about. They can't move him to midfield because he is actually a defender, but the way he plays, him and Robertson, I mean, Robertson's kind of had to take a step back by the looks of it, stats wise. But I remember that I think it may be a couple of seasons ago. It seemed like they changed around and Robertson was a little bit more advanced, but Trent's come back again, and I love it. I love all the attacking defenders, to be honest, because I'm not a big fan of waiting for clean sheets. I'm too impatient. I'd rather know that I've got the assist in the bag early doors and that I can enjoy the rest of the game rather than wait for the 4 points and then know a last minute goal could scupper that. So that's my reasoning. And yeah, I do apologize because every question at the moment you're saying to me, what is your favorite? Well, and I'm giving you two every time. But 2 for 1, guys, 2 for 1.
2 for 1, indecisive. You decide, listeners, whatever you think is the correct way to you know.
Again, putting a positive spin on it.
Yeah, again, no time for that in this podcast at all. No time. But yeah, no, I like it. Both northern players, guys. The southern person, that's a bit treacherous, really, towards his own kind. But these southerners, they've got no loyalty at all. So that's to be understood. Yeah, understandable. Thank you. And anyway, so we go on to now your least favorite current FPL player.
I'm actually going to ask you, what do you think I'm going to say here?
What your least favorite current FPL player?
Yeah,
Well, Mo Salah, because he's costing you the head to head at the moment. Maybe
that's a good way of looking at it. Actually, I didn't think of it that way. I looked at it more from a southern perspective.
Harry Kane.
Yes. So it was
Could be Harry
between.
Kane or Romelu Lukaku, because every time you have one of those two guys in, you do shit, they do shit, and you do shit. So yeah,
That there you go. So my answer to that was Harry Kane or Romelu Lukaku, and I'm going to go with Kane just because Lukaku's been injured, so I can't have too much of an issue with him this season. So Harry Kane, because he's been so crap this year, and I'm not a big fan of someone who drops their standards because they're not getting their own way. And I thought Harry Kane was above that, but his form this season has been pretty poor. I think he looks like he might be picking it back up again, but he's still miles off the player that he was, last year and seasons before. So Harry Kane.
yeah, no, fair play. Who's your favorite FPL player of all time? Now we did a podcast on this, so I should be expecting the answer to be the same. Otherwise, I'm going to call you a contradictory person.
Well, no, I'm saying my favorite FPL player all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Ooh.
The reason
Fought
why
so
is,
you
although
fought so hard for him not to win the greatest one when we did that.
I
Yeah,
know I was talking through my ass. No, I
I know you
really
were.
I loved him as a fantasy asset. He was unbelievable. And I know I said a minute ago I didn't like set and forget captains, but he was just the weird thing is that I still think he's a better player than Salah, as in like at that moment. I still think, even though his numbers probably don't match Salah's this year, I just think Ronaldo. I don't know. Maybe the division was more competitive. Maybe he had weaker players around him. I don't know. The listeners might be able to tell me that. But for me, Cristiano Ronaldo, because he was an Alex Ferguson player, because he was a midfielder, because he was just entertaining. You didn't know really what to expect. He could score goals from everywhere and anywhere with both feet, and yeah, he was a lot of fun to have. So I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And your least favorite FPL player of all time?
Okay, I'm going to go with Jamie Vardy, and the reason behind this. So obviously,
This is
I
more of
don't.
a bitter thing.
Yeah, I obviously hold it. No, I didn't really. When you're that low down the table that year that I was, when Leicester won the league, you accept that. I wouldn't have held a grudge against Vardy, but the years later, I've always brought him in at points, and he's never done anything for me. And then I've taken him out, and I just think he's one of those players that does well against good teams. And when you think, oh, he's away at, I don't know, let's just say Manchester City, and you think there's no chance he's going to do anything, and he scores a hat trick or something like that, you're like, and the thing is, that there are people out there who have kept hold of him just because they can't go to take him out that week, and they just thought, I'll keep him in, and they've got all those points. When realistically, it makes sense to take him out, But yeah, I can't remember really ever having a successful period with him in my team, so I'm going to go with him. He's a curse of my team.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of hatred for you. Yeah, a lot of hatred. But never mind. But now I see the reasoning behind it. So yeah, we accept reason. So on to scouted players from your region. So this is, we give, five different picks from your region. So the southern teams that you can select from this season. So you can pick any player from any team in those 10 clubs that you can choose from. So I want you to do good from afar but far from good, which is a good player but low scorer. We want you to then do a differential, underestimated big point scorer, a newcomer, new player to the league, a set piece extraordinaire, so free kicks, corners, pens, and then your captain fantastic. So can you start us off with your good from afar but far from good, please?
So again, this is the last time I'm going to say this, but I've got two. I'm going to go with Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. I think that they both looked good from afar in Germany, but when they came over here, they were both shockingly shy. No, they've both been really underwhelming, and obviously the weird thing is that although they've been underwhelming, they both won the Champions League last year, so it's like one of the highest accolades you can get for the talent that both of them have shown in the past before they joined Chelsea. You'd expect them to be kind of players in and around my team all year for this season and last, but they've not even come close. So I'm hoping that next season they might drop in price. I mean, they'll definitely drop in price unless something crazy happens between now and the end of the season, but they'll drop in price, and maybe they might do something that gets the manager going again and brings him back into the team. Because I actually think Havertz is still getting a decent run from Tuchel. So it's a bit of a surprise. Werner, not so much. I can't believe Werner, honestly. I just thought, what a signing. When he was going to go to Liverpool, I thought, oh, well, fair enough, that works. And then he went to Chelsea, and I thought, that's interesting.
I think he would have suited Liverpool's game more than he suits Chelsea's game, personally. But,
yeah. I agree with you. I think Chelsea, it seems, are dominant around their midfield and just being solid at the back and stuff. And Liverpool, it's all about that front three, isn't it? And wing backs getting forward as far as possible and having that defensive solidity in the midfield. But yeah, I think he probably would have done. But I do think that if it, I don't know, it's hard. But yeah, I think they're both kind of like they look good, talented boys, but like realistically, this don't get enough points at all.
Yeah, no, fair.
So that's my good from afar, but far from good.
Yeah.
Differential
next, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Conor Gallagher. I think the reason why I'm going to go with him is just because he flirts around the idea of being a holding midfielder, and he was a holding midfielder before for West Brom, you would have said that this season he may have been in that position, but he just always seems to be in and around it. I mean, he's not a differential probably now, but he was when the season got going. And even now, I think if you had to choose between him and Zaha, given that there's not a huge amount of money between them now, you would still be tempted with Zaha because you know that he has a lot to offer if he's on form. So I'll go with Conor Gallagher.
Yeah.
Newcomer, it has to be Emmanuel Dennis. Has to be. I can't think of anyone from the south that has had the impact that he's had. He's got lots of goals and assists for a team that are really struggling at the bottom of the league. And he's just one of those that, I mean, he was a bargain. I think they signed him for 3.5 million or something from Bruges. Came from nowhere, and he's been a revelation, really. I just worry because he's the kind of player that I guess will probably be on his way, even if we do stay up probably in the season, if he carries on the form that he's carrying on with. But yeah, so I'll go with him. He's having a bit of a dry patch at the moment, but I think it's been a long season, so maybe
Watford are having a dry patch at the moment, so yeah,
it's pretty dry. It's pretty dry.
Coincides with that a little bit, what's it now? Three games in a row without a goal. So yeah, not good on that front. But no, I think a lot of people say he's been a revelation as a newcomer to the league this season, and hats off to him to be honest with you. You can't fault that. Good choice. Then your set piece extraordinaire.
This is a no-brainer. This has to be James Ward-Prowse. I mean, I've barely had him in my team all season, but that guy knows how to take a good free kick, a good corner, and to be fair, takes a good penalty as well. Really, I can't think. I mean, the only other person I can think of for penalties is maybe someone like Harry Kane, but I'm not going to be greedy this time. I'm going to stick with Ward-Prowse. That guy.
Mount?
I'm not as convinced with Mason Mount. I've watched him play, and I think he has moments of brilliance from set pieces, but I wouldn't say that I would bet my house on him scoring or something. Whereas I think I might do with Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, Ward-Prowse is the man. Not been proper free kick taker. Him and KDB best set piece takers in the league.
Yeah, and again, Ward-Prowse is another one where you'd just be really interested to see how if he got the break at another team, a team higher up in the league, a bit like Matt Le Tissier style. Yeah,
one club. He's South. If you bled him, he'd bleed Saints. That man. He's proper lad. I don't see him going anywhere personally.
No.
And why? If he likes it down there, he's probably living the high life on the beach at the weekends when the season's not on. All good. So yeah, good shout again. And then finally, Captain Fantastic. Who's your consistent scorer? I've got a good idea of who you're going for here, but go on.
It's Heung-min Son, really, because he's the only one I can really trust, because he just doesn't seem to ever kind of take his foot off the brake. But like
Bowen this season, you had Bowen.
Yeah, Bowen's been good, but I just
good. Bowen's been good. He's got 7 goals, 12 assists.
Yeah, Bowen's been great, but Bowen has come from nowhere to have that form. And West Ham are a team that you want to trust, but you know that they can lose at home to Brentford, and they can lose at home to some weaker teams. That Heung-min Son, though, the guy again. I keep saying it, but I'd love to see him move on from Spurs and go to like a Man City or a Chelsea or something. It wouldn't go to Chelsea.
And it'd be great for Liverpool.
Yeah, someone else, and just see how he gets on, because he deserves it. He deserves success. He does. He's one of those players that I've never really ever seen him kind of lose interest, because there's a lot, in the time that he's been there's been a lot of Tottenham managers, and he has shown kind of that he's going to work hard throughout. So,
are you saying Spurs are unsuccessful? Oh my God! What's out? This is. I apologise to all our listeners. Such outrageous comments. Oh my God.
Well, it
Spurs
depends on
unsuccessful.
how Spurs see success. I mean, if they finish in the top half of the table and not win a cup, yeah, I mean that is successful, I guess.
Oh, yeah, no, very true, very true. Now, good shout. And that was the one I thought you'd go for, and you can't fault it. Over the last few seasons, he's been consistently up there, the main man. I know Kane's been doing it a lot, but obviously, like I said, bit of injury last season, and then this year. So yeah, now he's the man this season for sure. He's son of the southern mob. So on to your next question. Which three current FPL teams do you focus on more from your region, and why?
So this is going to be a hypocritical answer given what I just said, but Tottenham. Tottenham, Chelsea, and West Ham. I think that they all have something going on for them. The only other team that you could say potentially it was Arsenal at one point, and maybe Aston Villa now, where they've got some interesting footballers coming in the January window with Gerrard as manager. It seems to be clicking, but I'm going to go with Spurs, Chelsea, and West Ham. They've all been up and around the top, top 6, 7, 8, around that, and they've all got very good defenders, midfielders, attackers. You could have, someone like Reguilon, Son, Kane, if Kane's on form. You could have like James, Mount, Lukaku again if Lukaku's on form, and then you got like Sufal, Bowen, and Antonio. Basically, all I've done this year in the Southern team is make sure that if they, unless they've got a really bad run of fixtures, I've got 3 players of those 3 teams, and I'm hoping that Arsenal sack Arteta, bring in a proper manager, and Arsenal become a team that I can show interest in again, because I need that. With you having Liverpool, United, City, even United being pretty stinky this season, they've still got some great players on paper. If it starts clicking,
yeah, if exactly, I think I'd put them in there with Arsenal. I trust more Arsenal players than I would Man United players in terms of FPL points this season.
Probably, and I just, I mean, like Saka, for instance, his form recently has been really good, but then Arsenal have had a lot of games called off because of COVID, so we'll see. Maybe that could be someone that I could kind of start to rely on, and then gradually, like with Smith Rowe, was showing signs as well. So maybe Arsenal could be, but like I say, I think they've got to get rid of Arteta personally. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. Good side. Can't argue. So, what is your strategy when picking your FPL team? Then?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the beginning of the summer, right? Well, not the beginning of the summer, the end of the summer, sorry. When the season's just about to start and I'm making my wild card. So I'm going to walk you through my thought processes. And this is just how I think people think differently to me, right? So my first thing is I look at premiums. I look at your De Bruyne's, your Fernandez, your Salah's, your Mane's, your Sons, Kane's, whoever. And I look at them and I look at their fixtures and I think, could I captain them? Would I captain them? If the answer is no, in my opinion, they're too much money. So then I have to basically work out which premiums to have out of those players. The next thing I look for is attacking defenders. I like to have attacking defenders, especially at the beginning of the season when you could kind of, if you were to get Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold or Cancelo or someone like that, even someone like Luka Din or Kieran Trippier, if you get someone in your team and they score, they get assists right, left, and centre, or they get a goal every now and then, and they get bonus, they get a clean sheet as well. That's just obviously incredible. They're massive points score, but no one really ever captains them, so they go under the radar a little bit. Whereas someone like Salah, for instance, where he's a captain for a lot of people kind of worship the ground he stands on. He's ever present, and fair play, he deserved that. But how many people captain Alexander Arnold's? Not many, but they should, because he scores a lot of points. But personally, I go expensive keeper and then a really cheap keeper. So this season, Foster's been a great example of someone you can have 4 million, the cheapest you can get, and he's playing. So if something happens to your expensive keeper, then you've got that option of, kind of like, I don't know, him dropping out and being on the bench. So you have got that option. So and I keep them for the season because, to be honest, I don't really care about goalkeepers. You don't really get a lot from the goalkeepers, and that's just one of those things. I always have one or two guaranteed out of my 3 subs to be playing each week, and then the third sub could be the cheapest of the cheap. So I used to have that Keenan Davis at 4.5 million as a striker because he didn't ever play. He might come on for a minute or two, but it didn't really matter to me personally because I didn't think I'd ever need him. I think that one of the worst feelings is when you've got a guy who scored a lot of points and he's your third sub. And for me, that's just as bad management as not transferring a player in as having them as a third sub and them scoring big points. I jump on form players as soon as possible, but I normally give it a week. So using Jesse Lingard as an example, last season, I gave it a bit of time and then I watched one of his games, saw that everyone was passing it to him. He was doing everything throughout the team. And I jumped on him after that first game because I just thought, if you're a talented football player and you've been to somewhere like Manchester United and you're not getting in, that can easily happen. And then you drop down to a team that aren't as good as Man United on paper, West Ham. So a group of players who will be desperate to want you to stay. It can go one way or the other, but I took a risk on him last year and he was unbelievable. So that's how I see players on form. You can't work out if they're on form ASAP. You can't work that out, but you can get a feel for someone. If things are just falling to them perfectly and they're in the right position at the right time and they're hitting the ball perfectly, goalkeepers are making good saves off them, or they're hitting the post, hitting the crossbar, they're permanently in the game. That's what I'm looking out for. And if I see that, I think so Rafinha is a great example again. Someone, if you watch a highlight package for Leeds, most games, he's involved with something that's going on. And you look at it and go, that's going to fall for him at some point. So that's the way I see that. And I often look at it and think, it's easy to remember that your captain should be one of the top 6. Now, when I say top 6, I am technically including Arsenal, Spurs, even though they don't deserve to be in there, or even Man United probably. But what I'm saying is that don't just feel like you have to captain the most expensive players is probably the best way of putting it, rather than top 6 players. Because look at like Jared Bowen, for instance. I mean, 6.something million. You captain him, he could, he scored big points. Mikel Antonio at the beginning of the season, scoring big points, So I would just say, I always look to captain someone who's at home, unless they're away to someone really crap, like maybe a Norwich or, I hate to say it, a Watford. If they're away from home and they're playing one of those, maybe I'll captain, but I normally captain someone who's playing at home because I just feel like a lot of things click into place when you're at home, especially when you're a bigger team. You normally have a lot more of the ball. So I could keep going, but I'm going to stop there because we don't have all night. But they're some of the things that I think about when I'm picking my team. I take a lot of time in, and I've done a lot of teams. So I've got a lot of experience.
Fair play. And how often do you check your team? Are you clicking on it every day? You going in a couple of times a week? Do you wait for set moments, before game week? How often do you look it over?
So that all depends on 2 things. Have I had a good week or have I had a bad week? If I've had a bad week, I probably won't look at it until the next deadline, and I'll just feel sorry for myself until that deadline comes about, and then I'll start getting into the new game week thinking, okay, well, that one's done now. Let's focus on the next one. If I've had a good week, exactly. If I've had a good week, I'll be I'll just be sitting there gloating in my own head about how good I am, and that of course he was going to score a hat trick, and of course he was going to get the 3 bonus points. And look at me, I'm doing really well. But no, I normally look at it a few times. Maybe I'll look at it a couple times. I'll look at it quite a few times during the game week to keep up with what's going on. Then the break between the next game week, I might look at it once or twice during the week just to see if there's any injuries to be aware of. And then I'll always be well aware of the deadline. I'm definitely someone who doesn't often miss the deadline. I'm a bit of a nerd like that, but it helps to be on the in the FPL community on Twitter. So normally you kind of are able to keep up to date with all that kind of stuff through people who are often telling you that stuff.
Did you see that the other day on Twitter? Let's see what your knowledge is. A former top player in FPL missed the deadline for this game week for the midweek fixtures, and he said it was the most embarrassing moment of his life today.
I actually think I know who this is.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
was on
Magnus
Twitter.
Carlsen?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. How bad is that I know that?
yeah. Well, if it shows that you're on with your Twitter and stuff, because yeah, he posted it out there, and it got quite a few retweets, I believe, as well. And there you go. So yeah, I just thought I'd pick that up on it, and since you said don't miss the deadlines, very important. So yeah,
He,
good
he's
work.
he's a chess champion and he's
Yeah,
also an FPL champion. I mean, that guy
yeah.
ticks a lot of the boxes.
Obviously, can't tick telling the time very well, though, can he? So there you go. He's not the champion of time telling, is he? Ah, never mind, Magnus. Enjoy, son. You still do a lot better at FPL than any of us else. Most of us can dream of. So
Exactly.
I think you're still safe, pal. He must have had a very good life if that's the most embarrassing moment of his life. No wedges, no nothing. Who knows?
He definitely got wedges.
He must be. As a world chess champion, he must have been good at it at school, definitely. Yeah. But obviously he doesn't rank that as high as missing the deadline. So fair enough. And so when do you choose to make your transfers?
So I I kind of have two ways of looking at it. So at the beginning of the season, I will be making them as early as possible without making them too early. But I will want to. So in my brain, a lot of players will go up in value very quickly and lose value very quickly because people are very, very interested at the beginning of the season. So, and also just an FYI, if you're not aware of this, Manchester United players and Liverpool players, because they've got a worldwide following, they seem to come into people's teams a lot quicker than others. So if Bruno was doing well, he seems to, like he's an example of someone like if Pogba if Pogba scores 3 weeks in a row, I guarantee you his price will go up quite quickly because people will start grabbing him and getting him in there. So beginning of the season, I'll try and make him as early as possible. And then by the mid to late season, when fatigue and injuries kick in, I'll wait until just before deadline. There are too many differentials that happen. There's too many issues that occur that I don't want to be that person. And I'm sure it's happened to everyone where you've made a transfer and then they've injured themselves in training, or they've injured themselves in a midweek League Cup game or something like that, and you've brought them in because you thought you were being clever. I've learned that if you lose 0.1 million or more, it's worth it just to know that they're definitely going to be in your team.
Yep. Yeah. Wait until those Friday afternoon press conferences where gaffers say so and so's going to be in. Yeah, he's fine. Nah, so and so's not making the squad this week. He's injured. Or, so and so's been arrested. So he's not going to be playing this week. Wait until those decisions are made.
More
Yeah.
likely to
No.
be the second one at the moment, right? It seems to be
Yeah.
happening quite often.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Just once or twice. So, yeah, no, that's fine. Fair enough. And what do you look for when choosing your captain? I suppose it's quite similar to you start Captain Fantastic, but what are the things that our listeners should be looking for in your opinion?
So I'll always be looking for someone who's scoring points home and away. So again, like someone like Rafinha, as an example, if he wasn't playing for Leeds, because I think that has something to do with it, But he's someone who it doesn't seem to phase him. If he's scoring at home or away, he'll score both. Salah obviously is a good example. Obviously, scores home and away, doesn't seem to phase him either. But I would go for someone who normally when I choose my captain, I think I said it earlier, I'll be looking for someone who's playing at home, someone who's obviously, I'll go for form over fixtures without a doubt. So if Salah was playing Leicester this week and I don't know, let's just say De Bruyne is playing Brentford, I would probably go for Salah because he has been on form this season. De Bruyne has had his moments, but hasn't really been on form. So I probably would go that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I would be looking for that again, take Salah out of this to a certain extent. Well, I suppose actually no. ignore that. I will be looking for someone who's on penalties, which is what Salah is nowadays. But there was a period where you weren't too sure if it was going to be Milner, Salah, Mane. You know, you didn't know. But now I think it's quite clear that Salah takes all the penalties. I mean, take KDB for an example. If I had him in my team, I wouldn't have made him a captain tonight because he didn't take the penalty. But you weren't to know that because he did take the last penalty. So I would respect the fact that you were making captain, but now that Mahrez took that penalty, I would be thinking, oh, I don't know if I can trust De Bruyne to be my captain going forward. So, yeah, I like to say form over fixtures for me personally, and someone who is, you know, home and away irrelevant. They score either way, and a good set piece taker.
You're good. You're good. Do you worry about team value?
No, not at all. And the reason why is, and to explain to you guys, when you look at the players you have to pick from in the southern section, you realize that actually you get a lot of bargains. So where I've got your Jared Bowens, your Antonios, your Emmanuel Dennis's, realistically, I don't have to worry about team value because my big hitters, your Harry Kane's, your Lukaku's, your Werner's, your Havertz, whoever, Aubameyang, who's obviously just gone, they do fuck all. So team value is not a problem for me. In fact, at this very moment in time, I'm pretty sure I made one transfer this week, brought in Son, and added, well, basically I had 8 or 9 million in my bank, brought in Son this week, and I've still got about 3.5, 4 million in my bank because I just don't need that because my team is not expensive. So no is the answer.
Right. Fair play. Fair play. And do you have a plan with your chips? So with your wild cards, your free hits, your bench boosts. Do you have a set plan with that? Do you go with the feel? What how do you work it?
So I don't play even my wild cards, so the first or the second one, until the transfer window is closing or closed. So, for instance, I think I might have actually played my second wild card this year a little bit earlier, but only because I didn't think there didn't seem like there was going to be a lot of transfers happening, and the ones that had happened were the reasons why I made my wild card. So Coutinho and Digne, I brought in, so that they were like the bigger ones that, you know, I made. But anyway, what I was going to say is that, yeah, the wild cards, I normally play them after the transfer windows happen. Maybe I'll give it a week to see how they've settled in, if they fit straight into the team or they take a bit of time. And the idea being is that I feel like in those first few weeks of the season and those first few weeks of January, you should be able to have held on to your team up until that point. Now you've got 2 transfers, like at times if you roll a transfer, that is, now that you can have 2 transfers in a given week, you should be able to manage your team quite easily. So I wouldn't do them until after each transfer window. All the other chips, so the bench boost, triple captain, and free hit, I'll wait until the second half of the season unless there's something crazy. Like, I mean, I think Man United last year had a triple game week. You know, if that happened, it would be silly not to play your triple captain, I think, personally. Or maybe a free hit. I don't know, depending if Man United haven't got any kind of like one outstanding individual. So bench boost, you're looking at if you've got a double game week, triple captain the same. Free hit is, well, actually, again, probably when it's double game week, all 3 of them. I mean, free hit you could use on a single game week where there's been a lot of games called off, but then it doesn't seem as fun, I guess. So yeah, all 3 of them I'd wait for the double game weeks that normally come in the second half of the season.
Okay, no, fair play. So, on to a little bit more about yourself, I guess, now as well, on in terms of FPL goals and aims. You know, what are your biggest sort of FPL goals and aims? whether that's at the start of any season, overall in life? What do you hope to achieve?
So every year when I play this game, my aim is to always get to 2,000 points. That's my first goal. Once I get to 2,000 points, I feel like I can kind of relax. I feel like that's the point of you kind of saying that's the standard. Anything more means you've had a good season. Unless like last season, I think last season was a bit of a freak. There was quite a few points. I think that was the most amount of points most people scored last year because of Salah and Man City and whatever. But yeah, personally, my aim is, can I finish in the top 1,000? I think with the Southern team, it's highly unlikely, but you never know. You know, I mean, realistically, a realistic target for my Southern team would be trying to get into the top 100,000. Probably that's probably a realistic aim. But if I get, like, whenever I play the game, if I was to pick both sets, North and South, I would say, can I get into the top 1,000? If I can get into the top 1,000, for me, that's a massive achievement. You're not going to win it. I mean, you're not Magnus Carlsen, so.
No, definitely not. No, fair play. And what is your biggest FPL regret?
All right, okay. So I would say it's probably not going live last year on our North versus South podcast, because I was absolutely kicking your ass in the head-to-heads last year. I wish that we'd gone live last year. Although you did get the points. You got more points than me, to be fair to you.
I did.
But
got more overall points.
The head-to-head was what we were kind of aiming for. So I wish we'd gone live that season, because that would have been quite funny.
Kane and Son just winning everything for you. Yeah,
they were unbelievable. And they just picked their weeks, didn't they? They just scored massive one week and then did nothing the week after. But yeah, if anyone is looking for those archive videos, I've got them everywhere. They're in my hard drive. They're sitting there waiting to be released one year. So when people ask for that, I'll happily provide. But my other regret in previous seasons, before we read the podcast, was I really fucked up my triple captains. But I think one year I did Mane as a triple captain. He got injured in the first, similar to the Dennis situation. He got injured in the first game of a double game week and he got 1 point or 3 points. That was a real killer. I think I did pretty well that season, but yeah, I've stunk out the joint when it came to my triple captains in recent seasons. So I've got to play that a bit more cleverly.
So what FPL advice would you give to other aspiring FPL managers, or current FPL managers or stalwarts? What would you say to them?
So, okay. I'd say always be patient. Do not take hits unless you really need to. As I said before, captain players who are on form over fixtures. Personally, that's what my advice would be. I would also say, if you've had a bad game week, don't let it get to you, because I've seen people. I've been playing this game for a long time now, and I've seen people start the season so poorly and then catch up quite easily because they've made some bold decisions and found themselves paying off. And then having the year that Bruno Fernandes signed for United in the January transfer window, I basically won my mini league by basically putting a bit of faith. Like I said earlier about the taking a player who's on form. I got him in very early days because he seemed like quite a useful player. I wasn't afraid to captain him. Man United were getting penalty after penalty. He was scoring every penalty he was getting. And I went from, I think I was about 7th or 8th in my mini league, and it ended up winning it quite comfortably in the end, just because I wasn't afraid to take those risks. So if you're not enjoying it and you're losing week in, week out, you're not scoring big, just take some risks. And to be honest, it's like golf. You can hit a million horrible shots all day, but you get that one drive, goes over 300 yards, 250 yards maybe. Do people hit over 300 yards at amateur golf? I don't know.
Yeah, some people will.
Yeah. But basically,
they're annoying buggers.
yeah, all I'm saying is that you hit that one ball really well, and it makes your day. And you're just talking about it. You go home to your other half and you're saying, should have seen that, boy, it's unbelievable. Anyway, so all I'm trying to say is that you can have that in FPL. Don't give up on it. And the other thing I would say is I would always look for a set and forget captain like we've had this season with Salah. If you can get that set and forget captain and keep with him, you'll be surprised how easy it is to pick your team around that set and forget captain. Because if Salah is your captain and he's scoring points right, left, and centre, the rest of your team don't have to do too much. I mean, honestly, I take the piss out of State this season, but if Salah hasn't done well, State made Cancelo captain, and both times he's delivered with double point scores. So I think if you get captain right, it's gonna you'll do all right. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, good stuff. If you could change one thing about FPL, what would it be?
So this is inspired from I think it was our other Nasqaa early in the season, where someone basically we were talking about rule changes. It might have been a Nasqaa, it might have been a weekly, I can't remember, but it was one of the listeners who kind of came up with this idea, and ever since then I haven't stopped thinking about it. It's such a great idea. So I really like the idea of having a free hit chip, but there's no limit on the value, and that you can pick anyone. It doesn't matter how expensive they are. I think that's such an interesting idea because, like I say, right now as a Southern team, I can't pick certain players because they're not doing anything, like Lukaku. Again, Havertz and Werner. So Aubameyang's now gone to Barcelona. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that earlier in the season, all the most expensive players in my section were pointless to have, really, because they were pointless. They weren't doing anything. So if you have a choice and you could pick both the North and South players, like like most people do, to be able to pick a team of Salah, De Bruyne, Son, Kane, I don't care who you are, that would be pretty exciting. And you would fall into a trap because you would forget about the players like your Dennis's, your Ward-Prowse's, your Coutinho's, the players who are cheaper. You might fall into that trap. So I think that would be quite a good idea. And hopefully someone's listening out there and taking it on board.
Yeah. No? Yeah, good. No, I like that idea. It's definitely got a good shout to it. So yeah. Big one now. Choose your greatest ever FPL team. No value.
Okay. So, as we talked about in the past, and as you can probably tell by how quickly I'm answering these, I was able to do a bit of research on all these questions. This one took a bit more time, and I put a lot of time and effort into it. And I assume I'm going to get a lot of abuse for it, but it is what it is. So I'll start with the goalkeepers. Peter Cech, I think, is that season or those seasons with Mourinho, and even after that, when
That's a safe call.
yeah, I think he was incredible, and they barely conceded a goal. I doubt he probably would have got many bonus points. Having said that, because I don't think he probably was worked that much. But yeah, I've got Cech in goal. I've got Emi Martinez as my backup, and the reason why was because I believe last season he hit the second highest scores for a goalkeeper. I think Brad Friedel got the top one, but I'm going with Martinez only because Brad Friedel got his top score back in the day before I was even playing it, so I'm not going to use him. That just seems lazy. But Martinez was brilliant for Villa last year, and saved penalties. He got loads of points, bonus points. He got loads of save points. He didn't even keep that many clean sheets on paper, really. So I love that about a goalkeeper. When you see that they've conceded a goal and you have a look at their score and you're like, well, he's conceded, but he's on 5 points. How's that worked out? And you realize he's made millions of saves in the game. I love that. That's great. So they're my goalkeepers. Obviously, I'm going to go with Alexander-Arnold, Trent Alexander-Arnold. and I'm going to go with his partner Andy Robertson. They're my two, like my first two defenders. John Terry, I mean, like both Alexander-Arnold and Robertson both get forward. There was, in my mind, I was thinking I could have gone with Cancelo, could have gone with James, Chilwell, these players who also get forward and get goals and assists, but I just don't think they've done it for long enough yet to be in this team. Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Terry, when he played with Czech and Ashley Cole just missed out on this one. He was in there, but I took him out. So John Terry scored goals. He must have scored about 7 or 8 goals a season when he was playing at centre-half. Yeah. That's actually, I think there's not many players out there nowadays from centre-half who scores regularly. Like I thought Van Dijk might, but he hasn't really done that. I don't know if you've noticed that, but yeah, so Terry's in there. Then I've got Matty Taylor for Portsmouth. So when he had that season where he scored some of the craziest goals, some of the best like long range goals you're going to see, he was playing left back and he was defender in FPL. So I've got him in there because he scored a lot of points, and again probably didn't get many clean sheets, but enough for him to have scored big that season. And then Leighton Baines, who I guess again, I mean, a bit like, I don't know. I mean, he was one of those players, even when he was at Wigan and then Everton, he took penalties, he took free kicks, he got forward, he got assists. Yeah, I mean, you don't get to 7 or 7.5 million, whatever he got to in FPL without deserving it. So yeah, that's my 5, and stand by it. Then my midfield, obviously Mo Salah, I don't really need to explain. Frank Lampard, don't really need to explain. Cristiano Ronaldo. I think all 3 of those are without doubt guaranteed to be in most people's teams. But the one who misses out, Steven Gerrard does miss out, who probably would have been the other one to creep in, but I've gone with Bruno Fernandes. And the reason why I said that is because the 2 years after he joined United, I won the league both years because of how he performed. And the amount of points he scored in those, that it was actually a season and a half, was incredible. So I know people will probably go, well, yeah, he's been good, but now that he's getting found out, but at the same time, I still think that season and a half was incredible. And then the other one is Kevin De Bruyne, who is just an unbelievable player. He kind of has moments where you go, FPL wise, you can't have him. He's too expensive. And then they drop his price down to, because he has an injury, they drop his price down to 9-something million, and then he's undroppable again. Like that season, I think maybe it was last year, he was like 9.5 million, and everyone had him again because he gradually got better. But then, so that's my 5 midfielders. Then I've got Thierry Henry, goes without saying, Robin van Persie, Arsenal and United, even failing teams in Arsenal, he still scored big. And then the last one was tough, but I had Luis Suarez. I could have gone with, chose not to. I could have gone Aguero, chose not to. I've gone with Harry Kane. I don't like Harry Kane, but he's in there, and that is probably just to appease all those Spurs fans who were pissed off at what I said earlier. No, I think like the fact
Drogba, did he?
Drogba maybe, yeah, but I do think that with Harry Kane, he is someone that you could rely on. You could rely on him in previous seasons, and he does go
7 seasons. He's just been ridiculous, hasn't he?
Exactly, so, and he goes on runs, and he loves to score against certain teams. So he's an ever present with Spurs, and it's a shame what's happened this year, but who knows? Maybe Conte will get the best out of him in the second half of the season. But yeah, that's my team. I can't think. I guess the other person I was thinking of is, like the older Man United players, like your Rooney's, your Vidic, and your Evras and stuff like that, or Van der Sars. But I feel like I'm happy with my team.
No, fair enough. Good team. Can't argue with it. It's obviously, well, yeah, I could argue with it, but I think there's there's quality there throughout, to be honest with you. And yeah, you can see the reason why you've put them in. So yeah, fair play, pal. Fair play to that one. Really good. So I'm adding two further questions in here. And this isn't quite FPL related, but your most favourite January transfer in the history of the Premier League?
It's a good question. I would actually say that it would be between Luis Suarez and Bruno Fernandes, and I'm going to go with Fernandes for that exact reason what I said earlier. The fact that he turned my season around in FPL. He turned Man United season around. He turned Man United from being a team going nowhere to a team pushing for top four, doing well in the cups and stuff. And I think I was actually there for one of his first games. I went to Old Trafford, with Watford, and it was one of his first games, and he was unbelievable, to be honest. I think he scored a penalty against us, but it just, everything about him, it was just positive. And it's kind of like a position that you dream of having a football player in that position, the attacking midfielder who's positive, who gets forward, who is always looking to do the right thing, never kind of, I guess, just he seemed so much more switched on than anyone else around him, and that's including the players he's playing against. So I'll go with Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, no, good. Like that. And yeah, I mean, like you said, yeah, he came into the Premier League with that fantastic first half, that second half of the season he joined United. He got like 117 points in less than half a season. He got 8 goals, 8 assists, 18 bonus points. Then the first full season, 244 points. I mean, he's on 100 points this season and he's not having a good season, people are saying now. Yeah, I suppose compared to other seasons, he's not maybe doing as well, but he's still got 100 points. If you think about it, he's not doing badly. There's he's in the top, top 7 or 8 point scorers in midfielders. So he's not terrible, but he is a lot of money. So you want him to be trying to better those heights, I guess. So then on to this one. This might be a bit tougher. What's your least favorite January signing?
It's tough because my
many.
My memory's not great for like January, transfers in general. I mean, the only person who comes to mind is that Andy Carroll, just because I was thinking of Luis Suarez earlier. I mean, Andy Carroll was someone that, if I'm being honest with you, I had him for Newcastle the year before when they came up, and he was only 5 million or 5.5 million. And I remember, if you had him and Kevin Nolan, they were unbelievable. I remember him scoring a goal from the edge of the area, and he just basically put his left foot through it. And I thought, Jesus, like, this guy's got everything. Like, he's a big man striker. He's got a great touch. He basically looks like he can shoot from distance. He's a good poacher. He gets in the middle of it, and ultimately don't want to play against him because he's a big guy. He's like he in my mind was arguably could have been a better Peter Crouch, because Peter Crouch was a talented guy, but ultimately he was deemed a little bit weaker and not as much of a physical presence. And you looked at Carroll thinking he could be that player. And I remember the Euros, he came with with England, and he scored a great goal against Sweden, but didn't do too much after that. But obviously his career has been by injury. But at Liverpool, he had a stinker career, let's be honest. And I think it's always pretty tough to come in January. Although I do think that sometimes you get some of the most interesting ones. But I can't. If I'm being honest with you, mate, I can't think of many right now. So I'm going to go with him, just because that's the one I can remember. And he had a stinker.
No, fair enough. So no, I like it, mate. I like it. So, final few bits of conversation, really. Can you confirm what your Twitter handle is, so that listeners to this podcast can hurl abuse at you if they so wish to?
Yes. Okay. It's FPLSoutherner. All one word. FPLSoutherner. No underscore anymore.
And where will they find this podcast as well? What's the Twitter handle for the podcast?
Yes, that's FPLNVS. So you can find that. There's no underscore with that. And then if you're looking for my partner in crime here, it's FPL_Northerner. So he's definitely worth checking out as well.
Definitely. I'm a very sexy man. Definitely. So, and any other Twitter members, barring myself, that you'd recommend in the FPL community?
Yes. So I would say for knowledge, I would go for Fantasy Scout Mark. So that's Mark Southerns, FF Scout_Mark. He's, for me, I think he comes across as a genuinely nice guy, but he just seems to really care and puts a lot of time and effort into it. I always used to listen to him on FPL Scout and just think he's just someone who's very level headed. And the other person who's similar to him, I'd say, is the FPL General. He's a good person to listen to. Obviously he's kind of got the contract with the Athletic and stuff, and I can't really listen to his podcast now just because so many adverts, and I don't. If I'm being honest, he's made a good decision by keeping his podcast down to half an hour, which I wish we could do, but we really can't because we love a chat. But yeah, I think that if you want to listen to someone who's got a lot of, like, who you'd respect and have got really good finishes, both FPL General and Fantasy Scout Mark, two people to listen for. But I'd also, two other mentions are FPL Marcin, so that's Marcin. He does memes like every day, and the guy just nails it every day. Is unbelievable. Like this guy can't have a job, or if he does, he doesn't take it very seriously, because when something's happening, he just nails a meme. And he doesn't just do one in a day. He does about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or something, and every single one gets so many likes and retweets, and well deserved. And the other person who I want to give a shout out to is FPL NWO, because he's got this wrestling themed kind of like FPL. He puts all of his team players as ex wrestlers, and he's got like, he changes their attires to their like ex wrestlers and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. I suppose if you didn't like wrestling when you were younger, you wouldn't really care for it. But I was a big fan when I was a kid, so I love it. I think it's great. It's really kind of like original thought. He's put a lot of thought into it. Both him and Marcin are both two guys who just seem to be, they got their finger on the pulse, and they don't just stand still. They always seem to be doing something, and it entertains me. That's what I'm going to say. If you're not following those two, I'd really, really highly recommend you do. But they've got a lot of followers, so I'm pretty sure most people are.
Cool. No, excellent. No, thank you. And I suppose final few questions for you, Heath. Straight front answers. I want you to say your first thing that pops into your head. Watford, stay up or go down?
Oh, stay up.
Lies. Man United, top 4 or not?
Yeah, top 4, yeah.
Great. Final question. Newcastle into Europe next season?
No chance. Not happening.
No, fair enough. Thank you very much. Well, no, that's everything. Thank you very much, Heath. It's been a fantastic Q&A with yourself. Is there anything else you'd like to share to our listeners?
No, I remember putting any other business onto the agenda out of the office banter kind of thing, but to be honest, I think this has gone on. This has gone on. Yeah, I think this has gone on for a fairly long time compared to your Nasqaa, so I'm not going to keep the listeners listening any longer. So I'll let them have a bit of a break.
Fair enough. Well, Heath, it's been a pleasure interviewing you for the Nasqaa. It's been great to, hopefully the listeners enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. It's been great to get inside that small brain of yours. So yeah, really, really good. And I'm sure we'll eagerly await the release, really, to be fair, because yeah, really been good to hear. And anyone else who's listening to this and would be interested in getting involved and doing a Nasqaa on themselves, I'm sure they can tweet us. You've got our Twitter handles. So if you're interested, we are open to people if they fancy doing one.
Yeah, and thank you, mate. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. It's I hope you've learned a lot from this, and in a few weeks, months, years time, you might kind of say to me, I took your advice on who to captain, and it didn't pay off, but thanks anyway. we did this Nasqaa for state, and we did one for the FPL audience that we had at the time. But I think it's something that it's always good and reassuring to hear from people who play the game, who are being as honest as possible, and they're not holding their cards close to the chest. I think everyone has a way of playing, and there's no right or wrong answer really when it comes to FPL. The reason why people enjoy it so much is that you can put a lot of time into it and do well, but you can also put a lot of time in it and not do so well. All I say to people out there is, yeah, it will be fantastic if there's anyone who would like to come on this and we can see what they think as well. But realistically, we just hope that you've listened to State now you've listened to me. Hopefully you can get something out of it and improve your FPL experience. That'd be great.
Thank you very much, Heath. Thank you to those who have just listened to the podcast, and we will see you again soon when we come back out with our next North versus South podcast, which I'm sure we'll be recording very soon after with the upcoming game weeks ahead of us. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night.